God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 31 of Your Journey Is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey, and the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey, and to Your Journey Is Not Over. Neither are to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. When I left off last time, yes, my boss got my car for me. She locked it down so that I could save my money to pay them back and plate it and get insurance, which my dad helped me with that, as he did everything that parents do. Except it was like he was the only parent I had. I just had another person living in our house that took every opportunity to tear me down with her words, and every opportunity that she got to humiliate or embarrass me, especially in front of my friends. Parenting was 100% on my dad. Again, I thank God for him every single day. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for my dad. And of course, my grandparents and my brother are also on that list. And as I always say, it took a village. My dad really stuck in there with me, though. He never gave up on me, and he taught me so much. Forever grateful that he stepped into my life and become a dad that I much needed. He did a job, being my dad, that he didn't have to do. And for that, I will be forever grateful. So I got my car finally, a lot of hours at the dairy bars and saving every penny. So excited to have it all paid for by myself. Well, 3 weeks later, a lady pulled right in front of me at the very last second. I hit the side of her car. I T-boned her. I was thrown into the steering wheel. I busted my head and my mouth, had bruises from the seatbelt. Only thing I think is that it happened so fast that I didn't have a chance to brake. So therefore, my seatbelt didn't lock up initially, and on impact, it locked up and it threw me back. I was taken to the hospital by ambulance, and I was checked out. I had a really bad concussion, and I had whiplash, and I was bruised up, and somehow I'd busted my knee. I got released and found out my car was totaled. I only had it 3 weeks. I remember being so upset. Insurance covered my car because it wasn't my fault. And because I got hurt in the accident, I also had to go to physical therapy. Less than a week after my accident, an insurance check came for me to go get another car. I wasn't given the whole check, only part of it, to go get me another car. Because I was under 18 then, my mom was in charge of my insurance checks for my car, loss of my wages, because I was taken off work for 6 weeks. By the way, I never seen a dime of that money. This car wreck was like a curse to me. I had wrecked my first car just 3 weeks after I got it all paid for. I got hurt in the accident. I was off work for 6 weeks, and my mom was profiting completely. And when it was all settled, I had a lump sum of money waiting on me to turn 18 years old so that I could receive it. My mom had gotten an attorney, and he had it put in a trust for me until I was 18. How could that part be a curse, right? What did they say? Money is the root of all evil, right? Well, the way I see it is money isn't evil. It's greedy people that are evil. That trust, as you will hear later on in my journey, almost cost me my life on 2 different occasions. And yes, it brought a lot more trauma, nightmares even. Again, my dad and I went out car hunting to find me a car. We ended up at a car lot at a part of town that we hardly were ever at. Don't really remember how we ended up there. Didn't know it then, but I know it now. It was God. There was a Honda Civic, a 5-speed, cream colored, and a hatchback. It was really cute and small, and with a hatchback, I could get a lot of my friends in my car. 16-year-old thinking, okay? Now, what I'm about to share with you will let you know everything truly does happen for a reason. Everything is God's plan, always. So we're at this car lot looking at this car. Salesman, I assume that's who it was. Wait for it, okay? Because this is how God moves us to the perfect places, perfect timing. So I asked him how much. He said $600. Okay, I started it and it was loud, really loud. And he was like, "We haven't got that fixed yet. We just bought it at an auction," etc. Of course, I was asking my dad, "What do you think?" Well, the salesman goes inside and then comes back and said the owner is in there and he said he would sell it to you for $300 and we will send you straight to the muffler shop. And he said he will pay to have a Cadillac converter and a muffler on there for you. What? What's the catch? I'm sure those were my exact words too. He was like, "No, no, he just wants to get rid of it today and he thinks it'll make you a nice car." He even said, "If anything goes wrong with the car, then let us know and we'll make it right with you." Okay, sounds too good to be true, right? It was. I had no way of knowing at that time, and I wouldn't know until 20 years later. But the salesman was actually my biological uncle. And the owner inside that building was my real biological father. How bizarre, right? I was told 20 years later that the salesman, my uncle, he had asked my name when we were outside and if my dad was buying my car. My dad said no, she works and buys her own stuff. And of course, I told him my name. Well, when he went inside, he told my actual real dad, "That's Tanya out there." My actual real dad knew my first name, but not my last name because of the adoption, changing it from South to Pearson. He knew I existed and he knew my birth date. And he had seen me briefly when I was about a month and a half old at my grandparents in Kentucky. And as he later said, "I knew you were mine." Now at 16 years old, I was physically standing on his car lot and buying a car from him. When my uncle, the salesman, went inside and told him, "That's Tanya," he told me he couldn't believe it and that he wanted to just give me the car, but he couldn't figure out how to do it. So that's why the price dropped in half. And the Cadillac converter and new muffler was added at no cost to me. When me and my dad went into the building for me to pay and get the title and do the paperwork, I was again 20 years later told that my actual biological dad had stepped into the garage to where he could hear me. He later told me I couldn't stop crying and he couldn't believe he was that close to me with just a door that separated us. But he never came out. I asked him why, and he said, "Everything you said was, 'Hey, Dad, this,' and 'Hey, Dad, that.' He said it sounded to me like you had a good dad and that you two were close." I assured him that yes, I have an amazing dad. And yes, he wasn't only my dad, but he was my best friend. So his perception was accurate. He said, "I didn't want to interrupt your life." Now that broke my heart for him. God led me there that day just so he could see me and hear my voice. And it was up to him. And he chose to not interrupt my life. What a sacrifice to make for my happiness, my well being, never knowing if he would get another opportunity ever again. I do not own the rights to the things that I chose to share today. This one's called the compass theory. A compass doesn't tell you where to go, it just shows you the direction. Some people follow it without question, some ignore it and hope for the best. Some spin it in circles, waiting for a sign. But the truth is, no compass can make the journey for you. You have to take the first step and face the unknown. Trust that no matter where you go, you'll find your way. Because in the end, direction matters, but its movement is what takes you there. I sat with my anger and asked why it kept showing up. It said, because you've been hurt and no one listened. I sat with my sadness and I asked why it never left. It said, because I am the love and care you never received. I sat with my fear and I asked why it controlled me. It said, because I'm part of you that's still waiting to feel safe. Then I realized these feelings weren't my enemies. They were my wounds, asking to be seen. Two Corinthians 5, verse 17 says, the more you walk with God, the less you recognize the person you used to be. That's what grace does. This concludes my podcast for today. Please join me Thursday, listen in, and always remember, your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been